the survey showed that 69% of Gen Zs and millennials prioritize in-person connection with friends at least weekly. Being social is now becoming expensive.
And again, that creates anxiety. Experiences with your friends and family, buying things for others will increase your well-being and your happiness. However, when we are doing this without a budget or without it being grounded in the why.
You're listening to Everyone's Talking Money. I'm your host, Shari Rash, and if you've ever felt like you're earning good money, but still not as confident as you'd like to be with it, you are not alone. In this episode, I'm joined by Jack Howard from Ally Bank, who has spent her career helping people understand the emotional side of money. We're talking about why even high earners can feel financially fragile, how social media feeds the impulse buy cycle, and why your very first money memories are still shaping the way you spend today. This is your invitation to rethink the way you approach money. Less guilt, less pressure, more clarity, and more alignment with what really matters to you. You can love your life and still hate your spending because money is emotional. If your bank app is starting to feel like a performance review, this episode is your reset. Jack and I are going to take you out of the shame spiral and into strategy. We're also going to talk about the one conversation to start with your friends that can lower costs and raise connection. This is not another Skip Lattes lecture. This is about alignment, spending with purpose, ditching perfectionism, and building real financial confidence. If you've ever wondered, why do I keep doing this with money? Good. We're going to find the answer. Let's get into it. Jack, you built a career helping people connect the dots between money, emotions, and behavior. Before we dig into all the advice, I'm curious, when did you first realize that how we feel about money is just as important as how much we make?
Yeah, so I've had the pleasure of working at Ally for the last 15 years, which is crazy. I can't believe that much time has passed. But through my career, I've had different roles. So I started out in our corporate citizenship function where I was able to lead giving to nonprofits, financial education for underserved communities, our employee giving in the community. And then I did a stretch role in our invest business where I served as chief of staff for the president and then helped to launch our wealth advisory business. And during that time with the wealth advisory business, it was grounded in behavioral finance. And the question that we would ask in the consultation journey is, what is your first memory of money? And that question is, when you could look back at your life and think like the moment that changed your life, that's one of those moments for me that changed my life because that question really opened up for me, in our wealth journey of understanding that it's more than just numbers for a lot of people. Like, yes, we can create a plan for your retirement. And if you stick to it, you'll be okay, more than likely. However, for a lot of people, there's so many more emotions behind it. So in the wealth business, you have to have about $100,000 in investable assets. So I went to our leadership and said, let's make this available for everybody. Let's create a program where we can think of money wellness and behavioral finance and money psychology for all people, regardless of if they have the 100K. And that's how I landed in my current role as head of money wellness. And what I love about the work is that we're able, as you mentioned, to connect the emotions, the behaviors, the mindset that comes with money. Because for most people, and this is regardless of how much income you can have a lot of money and be stressed out. You can have moderate income and just have so much joy. So when we think about this wellness journey, it's so much more than the dollars that you have in the bank.
What is your first money memory is one of my favorite questions to ask because it sounds like an easy question and it can be, but no one's ever thought of it before. No one's ever thought, well, what's my first money memory as you're driving and, doing all of your errands, or no one ever thinks that to themselves. And oftentimes I'll even say, well, even when I ask that question, doesn't necessarily have to be your first, but it has to be your most powerful because that,
Yeah.
or the first one that comes to your mind, because that means that had the biggest impact on you. And it could be something as simple as I heard my parents argue about money, or I got to spend my money. I had a lemonade stand and then my parents let me go spend it however I wanted. Whatever it was, that is what shapes who you are as a person with money for the rest of your life.
It really does. And I'm very thoughtful when I ask that question because I realize for some people, and I've had the pleasure of teaching this at Ally, and then also in the advisory business, you never know what answer you're going to get. And for some people, that most prominent memory of money can be painful. It can bring up some trauma. For some people, it's the tooth fairy and it's a joyful experience. So whenever we go into classes, we're very mindful of allowing people to show up with vulnerability, for our presenters to show up with empathy and compassion, because it's such a interesting question and it shows up for everyone differently, and we want to be mindful of, what is that most impactful memory? And then the connection is, how does that impact you today? So, as you mentioned, a lot of those behaviors that you learned as a child continue to show up in your relationship with money as an adult until you address it, until you connect those dots and understand that the tooth fairy came and then my parents took the money and now I have trust issues with money. I've heard that in a class before until you really think back and you're like, oh my goodness, that's why I do that. So having that mindset shift to decide, to realize that this is my past. I cannot change my past, but I can make different decisions for the future and understanding the root of where some of those money decisions came from.
You really do start to see the light bulb go off once they answer the question, whether it was positive or negative, especially if it's negative, a
Yeah.
negative experience. Wow, I didn't realize that I carried this with me, or this is why I feel a certain way about money, or I'm not trusting, or I think it's never going to be there because I open up my piggy bank and I thought I had all of this money and it's gone, or whatever it is. Whatever it is, it you can very easily connect the dots as to your first money memory to your relationship with money now. But Ally has a report called Minds on Money, and this report cites that almost half of Gen Z admitted to making impulsive purchases every month fueled by social media. And again, this is a mentality thing. This is back to our first money memory, to what we're seeing on social media now affecting us mentally. So what does that tell you about where our collective mindset is right now, generationally, about money?
Yeah, in that same survey, we found that 80% of consumers are just stressed out about money. It's impacting their sleep, it's impacting health, it's impacting focus. And I think what it shows for where we are in the world right now. So, as I mentioned, we have the Money Roots program. One of the classes we teach is called Money and You. And that class specifically goes into your emotions with money. And we have this emotion wheel where we ask people to, during the live session, to check off where they are with their emotions. And I'm seeing more than ever anxiety, fear, I'm overwhelmed. There's just a lot of uncertainty right now for a lot of people with everything from just, um, tariffs to AI to will I have a job next week? All of those things are popping up for people. And it's creating a lot of anxiety. So, one of our goals and the reason that we did the survey was to just bring to light, really, we have to look at this money conversation through the lens of well-being, and it's not this static thing where we just got dollars in the bank. When we realize that money is stopping people from sleeping, it's impacting relationships, it is really a part of your overall well-being, and we need to address it and think of ways to help to navigate some of those anxieties, which is what we try to do in the Money Roots program.
The anxiety, a lot of this is just hidden. It's internal. We're living in a vacuum with it because we can't talk about money. We don't talk about money. It's not ladylike. It's not proper to talk about money. And then on top of it, we can't let other people know about these emotions that are anything but happy when it comes to money. So it's like we're just stuck in our own little vacuums when it comes to this financial fragility that we have. So, what do we do? What are these hidden emotions and how do these influence our money choices?
You just made me connect the dots on something as to why I think people show up for our classes. It's because nobody knows them. Nobody knows you in the more than,
Right?
most of the people who join our classes, they're just attending solo because they want to improve and, improve their relationship with money. But showing up solo creates a space of anonymity almost to be vulnerable and say, I'm actually really terrified. So what do we do with those emotions? I think that first we got to identify it. And then we have something called the money wellness chain reaction, where we're exploring how your thoughts and your emotions create your behaviors. And the first step is and I apply this process to everything, even, my money then all areas of life, of really like, what are you thinking? So my thought may be, um, I don't have enough money for retirement, or I don't have enough in my emergency savings. If something goes wrong, I'm going to be homeless, right? So that could be a thought that's playing over and over and over and over and over and over. Or I need repairs for my car, and if something goes wrong, I won't be able to get to work. So that's going over and over. That's what's keeping you up at night, right? That thought over and over and over. Which that emotion that comes up is the fear and the anxiety and the overwhelm, and then the behavior more than likely is you don't do anything because you're paralyzed. You're paralyzed because these negative thoughts are going over and over and over, which creates those negative emotions, and you're paralyzed. So what we try to do with the money wellness chain reaction is to get you to a different thought. Okay. So for example, if we're talking about my car is going to break down. Okay. If my car breaks down, I know the right mechanic to go to. And I'm building my emergency savings starting today, so I'll be prepared. And we do this in the class. And when you see a person say that out loud, and I'll have them say it out loud, like, give me this new mindset out loud, you see them sit up a little bit more. A smile comes on their face, and the feeling shifts from powerless to, all right, I feel powerful, which is the behavior of, I'm going to open up that savings account and create a bucket for auto repairs. Because what we need to do is, oftentimes your mindset, those fears, those anxieties, they're not reality. It's not reality. It's what you're fearing may happen. And we want you to get to a place of shifting from what could happen to what can we control now? What is within your, place in the world that you can control, to get us from negative thoughts and behaviors to actions. And for a lot of people, that having an emergency savings, those things where you can have a tangible way to attack your financial anxieties, it creates a lot of confidence, which reduces it and gets you to a place of feeling empowered.
What is the average age of those that attend your classes and workshops?
Yeah, it really ranges. So I've had the pleasure of teaching to our interns, I just did a class this week with young professionals. We tend to get a lot of women. I will say that. We tend to get a lot of women for our public classes where anyone can sign up. We tend to get a lot of women, I would say, in like that probably 20 to 40 age range, where I think they are realizing that. My relationship with money, I wanna get it right. Specifically when I have older women, some of the things I'll hear is, "I'm ashamed. I didn't get my money situation. I didn't do things properly. I didn't have control. I'm running out of time." So for those instances and those classes, we're really trying to help people to get out of the shame and the anxiety again, get out of that mindset to a place of what can we control now to get to a better place. But I would say we skew more towards women in our public classes, but we also have deep partnerships with younger audiences through some of the work at Ally.
You know, older generations, like even elder millennials, Gen X, like and baby boomers, like we don't talk about money. But now that we have social media, we have these younger generations, things are on social media and people are still not talking about money, but you're seeing a lot more. Like you're seeing the maybe showing off, or even if it's not intentionally showing off, it still is. And it's so easy for the comparison. Are things being more shoved in their face of what other people have because of social media?
I think so. I'm going to give you my pros and cons of social media. The pro is that now with social media and we're in this digital age, information is at your fingertips. So for a lot of our young people, they're learning about money through TikTok. They're learning about investing and um, how to save for their dream vacation through influencers on TikTok. Loud budgeting, all of these trends that we're seeing. So that's a great thing. We want to democratize this conversation about money. So that's great. The con of it is that exactly what you mentioned. There is also they're being, overwhelmed with messaging of you should have this by now, you should do this, you should have this job, this amount of money, you should travel the world by 20. And that pressure of constantly seeing that among not just your peers, because I think so I'm 44. I didn't grow up, I didn't Facebook came out when I was in my 20s. Um, so for me, it was, if there was any comparison, it was my immediate group of friends because that's all I could see, or the folks at my university. Now, for young people, they're looking at the world and comparing themselves to folks who may not even be in their country with different levels of wealth. So I think just that access to information and exposure makes it more difficult for young people to navigate really what is real and what are realistic expectations that I should have for myself. I just met with we have a great program called Moguls in the Making at Ally, where we work with HBCU students. And I had the pleasure of having a class with them earlier this week. And a lot of them are under the pressure of, I need to have this much in my investments. It's just like checking all these boxes that I don't even think I thought of at 21, which is great because I think they're on the road to financial success. But then there's all of this pressure to not only show up perfectly financially, but also show up perfectly for your friends. Because again, you want to have those relationships and fear of missing out and all those things. And all of that is deeply, I think, attached to social media.
Yeah, I went to the negative right away of like the comparison and the showboating and all of that, but there also is so much information out there, which is good. It's good, right? We have to watch where we're getting our, information from, but there is so much more access to financial education now because of social media and all that than there ever was before. So in some ways, the younger generations are ahead because they can just do a couple clicks and now their algorithm is full of personal finance reels versus whatever random reel they were looking at before. So that's a great thing, but then it could also put this unnecessary pressure of, well, I
Pressure.
saw this reel that said by the time I'm 23 I should have XYZ
And
and
I
I
should
don't have
travel the
that, and it's
world and
like,
I should have a house. I literally had this conversation with some of our moguls this week of like, just give yourself time, work the plan, give yourself some
yes.
time, please. And, I think it really speaks to with social media, there's this certain level of immediacy of even when you see something. So, I've just gotten interested in this new trend of when you want to buy something, instead of purchasing it, put it in your notes app and just tally it up. It forces you to pause
Mm.
because with social media, it's so easy to just click. You got it connected to your Apple Pay, click on it, you buy it. It's mindless. Um, but really encouraging people to take the second to just pause and think about where you are, think about what you want. Let's get back to our values, get grounded in those things so we can get away from the pressure and all of the comparison. Just work the plan.
So it feels like on one side, we have social media ramping up the pressure to spend. But then there's the other side of it, like the life beyond our phones. And young people, it turns out, don't just want to live behind their phones. They want to be with their friends face to face. And that connection is great, but it often comes with a price tag. I really love this study that Ally recently came out with called The Financial Strain of Friendship, because it's so true. It found that most Gen Zs and millennials prioritize seeing their friends in person at least once a week. But the catch is these hangouts usually mean dinners, drinks, or activities, which gets expensive.
Very expensive, and again, that creates anxiety. So what we're running into is this need for connection, which again, let's talk about the good and the bad. When you think of your areas of well-being, money, your career, your friendships, your physical health, the time you spend in your community. If you want to use money to buy happiness, invest in those things, right? So investing in experiences with your friends and family, buying things for others will increase your well-being and your happiness. However, when we are doing this without a budget, or without it being grounded in the why. And now we're getting back to the mindset again. So for a lot of people, when we have a workshop called Money Plus Values, where we help you to go through what are your values and how is it showing up in your spending. And when we have this disconnect to what our values are, and for most people, when I teach this class, it's my family, it's having experiences. The answers we get are my spirituality, it's giving back. Those are the values that people say that they have. Yet when I have you pull out your banking app or your credit card and say, okay, show me, are those values showing up some of the time, none of the time, most of the time? There's a disconnect because what people really want is the experience with their friend. What they really want is to spend time with the people that they love. When we get under the why behind the why behind the why, it's really for those experiences. And when we're able to connect those outings, like going to brunch or going out to the bar with your friends, it's really because you want to spend time with your friends. So, one of my goals specifically when I talk to that younger audience is to help them to reconnect to what are your values and be proud to share that with your friends. I know talking about money can be taboo, but I wonder if we had more young people who started these conversations with their friends of what are your values, what are your goals long term, and how can we build friendships around that. You may see less of the bar and more of let's go to the gym, or let's start a book club, or let's do dinner and have a potluck. And I guarantee when we look at it from a well being perspective, you'll still get that boost of I'm spending time with my friends. I'm getting that in person experience, but you're not creating all of that financial anxiety or fear of missing out because it's not really affordable.
Going out and doing these things, it's expensive. No matter even if you go somewhere cheap, like nothing's cheap anymore. It's all expensive. And we only have so much money, right? Our income is only so much that these social activities can impact, financial goals. They may not be able to achieve what they want to achieve or save what they want to save because they're spending money on being social because that is a value, but there needs to be a checks and balances with it of, okay, I want to hang out with you, my friend. Do we
Yes.
have to go sit and have a lunch together or a brunch or a dinner and spend $100? Like, I'm happy just sitting on your couch. I've said this so many times in other podcasts. No one's going to be like, "Oh, you don't want to go out to dinner? Like, forget you." Like, everyone's going to be like,
Hmm.
"Oh, good. We don't have to spend $100 tonight. This is
We just need
wonderful."
somebody to
Like,
make it
great.
okay. Like raise, we just
Yes,
need somebody to bring it
exactly.
up and say, free everybody. Like, let's free the whole group of friends from this expectation that the only way we can have fun is like at $100 brunch. And I think when you're the friend that raises your hand and say like, let's do something different. On top of, I had to do this with my friends, and I'm far from being Gen Z, but for me it was I can't. Not only is it expensive, but I cannot eat this much. Like I need to pull back on the calories, right? So for me, it was that conversation of like, just will you come to the gym with me? Can we walk around the track? But you have to be that friend. I think again, getting back to your values. To have that time to slow down and think about like what is important to me. What is important to me? What is a night of drinking and eating? What does that mean for my Sunday when I want to get some things accomplished or make it to the gym? I actually had this conversation with our moguls just this week of it's not only the money that's spent, it's the energy that's given in that activity. Is it going to help me to be productive in my goals the next day? So I think again it's thinking of those values and having the safety within your friendships to have these conversations, which is another thing that we try to teach through the Money Roots program. Is just how do you have these uncomfortable money conversations without feeling like you're going to damage your relationship with either your partner or your loved one or your friend, and starting to have those conversations that historically have been taboo.
About 30% of women say Social spending makes it difficult to save for emergencies versus 20% of men. A quarter of women say social spending makes it challenging to pay off their credit card bill each month versus 16% of men. Why do you think it's more of a woman thing? Is it because we need that social element and we don't want the FOMO? We don't want to be sitting at home. It's like, are we just living in that middle school mentality of being left out? So it's like, I don't care what it costs. I'll go eat that meal that I really don't like that much just so I'm with all of my friends.
You took the words out of my mouth. There's nothing worse as a woman, right? To see your friends having the best vacation and you're, scrolling and you see that on social media or that dinner that you were able to miss. So yeah, I think a big piece of this is the fear of missing out and really wanting to also it's the fear of damaging those relationships. You don't want your friend to think that you are not supportive of the friendship because you say no. So again, that's where those transparent conversations have to come in of and not only as to, why you can or cannot go to that event because of your financial goals, but also explaining what those goals are. Of, hey, I can't make it. I remember in my 30s, I had to say no to some weddings because I was on a mission to pay off some pretty surmountable student loan debt. But you have to be honest and say, hey, like I have this goal of paying down student loan debt. I'm not going to make it to your wedding, but I will definitely be at the shower. So, really having those conversations with your friends and being transparent about these are the goals that I have. I love you and I want to support you, but I'll have to do it in a different way. And that's hard. You don't want to be the one left out. You want to be there, but there will be instances where you just have to say no. You have to say no and find a way to show up for your friends in a way that still shows the support, still creates those experiences that we need to improve our well being, but doesn't hurt your bank account.
And I think you just kind of gave the roadmap of how to have those conversations with your friends. I can't do it. I can't make it. I need to save money. I'm working towards paying off my student loan debt. I'm working towards saving for a house, whatever it is, right? Explaining it and say, but I am going to be at this because I love you so much and you're important to me. And like, I couldn't imagine anyone being like, how dare you? Right. And if they go, how dare you? You're missing my wedding. You're missing my birthday party. You're missing whatever. Then th- they're not your friend, right? They're not your
Right. So
friend
then we got to
anyway. And
reevaluate what our friendships are.
there's the big life lesson, right? That is a very neutral conversation. Like that is not saying I'm drowning, I'm overwhelmed, I feel all of these things, I'm terrible with money. Like it's just neutral. It's just very factual. And and I think like we get so caught up in like, well, I can't say that because I don't want them to know my business. Like you're just saying this is what I'm trying to achieve. Okay, you have student loan debt. You don't need to say I have $50,000 in student loan debt and I'm living paycheck to paycheck and it's consuming me. And you're just saying like I have this, and then a lot of your friends may be like, "Wow, I didn't even realize you had that. I have that too. Good for you. I'm trying. Let's do it together. Like, how can we hold each other accountable and support each other through this too?" So like your friendship may even become stronger afterwards.
Yes, I deeply feel we are going to start witnessing a shift in the relationship that people have with money. I think we're in the middle of like this transformation in the banking industry, in this financial education industry of getting away from it being all about the numbers and being in competition with others to one where we're really supporting our wellness, to one where we're really starting to feel okay with having these tough conversations about money that really aligns to who we want to be as people. And when you look at it and really looking at, and I love to say this whenever I get to speak, what is the return on joy for the things that you're buying with money? Really shifting from it being this just this thing to how do I use this to create joy and well being in my life? And as we begin to have this shift, I think you're going to see more and more people feeling comfortable having these conversations because, again, we're getting away from it being what you have versus what I have and fear of missing out to let's have a vulnerable conversation about the people that we want to be, the values that we want to hold, and how money will support it. And when you have that type of perspective in your friendships and romantic partnerships, there's really positive outcome. I'm hopeful that comes from being vulnerable, from showing up as your true self with money, because so much of the debt and shame and guilt that people have around money is because we're showing up inauthentically. We're paying for the wedding on our credit card, knowing we can't afford it when we have student loan debt. Right. So now you're up all night with anxiety. It's like this cycle of not being authentic with who you are, where when we start to show up authentically and say, hey, I have this goal of paying off my student loan debt so that then one day I can start paying for my kids' college. That was my goal at one point. And now I'm able to do that. And when I had that conversation 10 years ago, who would have known I would be where I am today? And I have those same friends who are still my friends, even though I didn't get to make it to one of the weddings. But they understand the long term goal. So I think it's just this we're going to start seeing this shift where these conversations are not going to be so hard because people are genuinely wanting to improve their relationship with money.
I agree. I agree. And it just takes one person saying it. It just takes that one friend in the social group to just say it or do something about it and just put it out there. Because although you all may not be in the same situation financially, everyone feels certain pressures. Everyone has these deadlines that are self-imposed or this anxiety or this weird, what we grew up with and all of these everyone has some junk when it comes to money. So we talk about everything else and with our friends or and that doesn't make us like good or bad, but for some reason with money that automatically becomes like our character or who we are as a person or what we feel like people most judge us by when money is actually the common denominator. We all have it, we all need it, we earn it, we use it. Like that's the common denominator. So let's like go with the things that are everyone can deal with and but just having that courage to just say like this is what I'm trying to do, this is my goal, or can we plan to do a book club or something
Yeah.
that doesn't cost as much. Just doing that, like it's just like it releases the dam. Like it's just such a small step, which feels really big to us, right? Because we've never talked about money before. So it feels really big, but the chain reaction from it is so great. It's so big, it's so wonderful that like just try like I just it's like just try it, just do it and
Yeah.
like see like experiment and have that conversation and see what happens from it.
Yeah, and I want to encourage everybody with a first step. So, we're all getting the courage to have these conversations with our friends. So, I'm going to give you something to kick off that conversation with, and we're going to go back to our values. You're meeting with your friend. Hey, friend, what are your values? All right. Okay, friend tells you their values. Now, friend, how is that showing up in your spending? And there's no judgment or shame. How can I support you to have your money better align with your values? Can you imagine having that conversation with your girlfriend and the power that could come behind that of having a group of friends that are deeply aligned and spending, saving and giving that's aligned in their that is in alignment with their values? That's powerful. So that's what I want all of your listeners to do is to ask that value question, friend, what are your values? Friend, how are those values showing up in your money? And then third, how can I support you? I think we'll begin to see that shift, and I think you'll see so much joy in friendships. It'll just deepen their relationships.
Well, if your friend's value is charity or, animals or something like and another friend sees a fundraiser, whatever. It's like, well, hey, group text, like, look at this aligns with friends' values, or like, this is what so and so said that she's passionate about. Like, let's go do it. Like, let's go support it. Let's do it together. And, and then you're getting everything. You're hitting all the points. Like you're spending quality time together. You're supporting each other. You're empowering each other. You're backing each other up from financially. We're talking about money. We're doing all of these things just from a very simple, easy question.
Well, and now we're not at the bar. We're not eating food. We're
Right.
doing something different. And not to say, because I love food, so I don't want to shame anybody that is into food. I'm big into when you have values, going really deep on your values. So for me, one of my values is I enjoy really beautiful things, and I love shopping. So I'm gonna hold on, buying the black pair of pants to get to the beautiful coat. So I don't want people to feel shame about dinner. But if we're going to do dinner, let's find the best restaurant that was restaurant of the year, and save up for it, and go to that in 2 months when we know we have the money for it. So just, I think it's being intentional, again, identifying what those values are. Like you mentioned, if it's charity, let's save our dollars this week and buy that ticket. Or if it's food, let's go to that really great new restaurant. Or it could be, coffee, right? Let's go to that new coffee shop that has the super fancy coffee. But just being intentional with how we spend our money, really with that goal of thinking, how will I get the highest return on joy? How will I get to have this experience? And now you're experiencing this with people that you love, which makes it even better and increases your well-being.
So would you say it's not necessarily setting a budget for social stuff, friend stuff, right? Because when we set a budget, it's kind of like, well, that's what we're spending. We're spending it, whether it's like the not so good dinner, it's like, okay, well, I'm going out with my friends. This is just going to come out of my social budget versus let's spend with purpose. If we're going to
Ooh,
do it, let's do it right.
yes. So, okay, I
Mhm.
have a confession. I work for a bank. I do not have a budget. I am more of I really lean into values-based spending. So everything that we've talked about today, specifically because my money story is deeply grounded in consumption. So I've had this cycle of debt, pay off the debt, work hard, make more debt, pay it off, which is my money story. We'll get into that another time. But because I know that is my money story, and my spending can get out of control where I'm in debt, I'm constantly checking in on, is this in alignment with my values? Is this new coat, or, I have a story of wanting to buy a pair of pants that were black, and I had to check, I did a values check. I said, does this count as really beautiful? It does not. Put it back. So for me, I'm really always checking in on, does it align with my values? If I'm not sure, I wait. I give myself 48 hours, or I like that new trend of just writing things down that you see and holding on it until the end of the month. But there has to be some pause in time to reflect on, does this really align with my values and the person that I want to be? Does it really align with the experiences that I want to have? So that's my approach to spending, and it works for me. We also teach it in our money roots classes of really, when you get really aligned on what you are passionate about and what your values are, it makes the no so much easier, because the yes that's aligned with your well-being and your values brings so much joy. So it's really easy to say yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, because you have that clarity. And for a lot of people, what we're lacking is just taking that time to get that clarity, to really hone in on what is most important to you, what are your values, and what are you willing to say no to accomplish those values and those goals. So for me, and the folks that attend our classes, we help them to get that clarity, which makes this budgeting thing a little easier.
That was gonna be my next question for you. So as we wrap up, do we first sit down and reflect on what are our values? And then we look, does our spending align with it? And can you give some examples of what values are? You like beautiful things. So it's not as if our values have to be not spending money or travel or charity. It's like, no, you like buying beautiful things. That's your value. And that's fantastic. It's like we can't even go, well, I can't say that I like buying things. Like that goes against this whole no,
No,
that's fine. It is what it is, right?
you got to
Just
be
accept it.
authentic,
Just that's
right?
right. So what are some values like when you do these workshops that people see? Because it's like I could imagine some people are saying like, I don't even know. Like I feel like I'm just living like day to day. I'm barely keeping my head above water. Now I need to decide what's
Yeah.
valuable to me or what I believe in.
So, a few questions to get you started on that journey of what you value is ask yourself what is most important to you. So, when you think of your life, what is most important to you? When you think of yourself, for me, let's say 60 years from now, I'm a lady in my hundreds on my rocking chair on my front porch. What would I have wanted to accomplish in life? Those are your values. When you think about the things that upset you most about the world and things that you really want to rally for, those are your values. So it's really looking at what are the things that are most important to you. And during our class, we ask those questions, but we give everyone a list of just words, adjectives, nouns that they can use to help to identify more clearly what those values are. And we do a sorting exercise where we ask them, what are your top 20 values? Okay, now give me your top 10 from that list. Okay, give me your top 5 from that list. Now break it down into 3. So that sorting helps you to get to a place of like, it can't be 20 things. Let's get down to those 3. And then using those 3, we're now looking at your spending habits to see how it's showing up. And again, that's not to create shame, but it's helping you to find those opportunities where you can be more aligned. And then from there, now we can create a values based spending plan.
And so then we have our values. It's the data. We have the budget. We're looking at our spending. There's no shame because there's nothing we can do about it.
Yep.
But then it's just is it just simply the exercise of line by line? Is this aligning? And obviously not everything is because we have basic expenses and all of that. But that extra stuff, are we looking at, does this align with our values? And what do we do if it doesn't?
The thing is, I want you to look line by line because even for some people, we have to question everything. Even when you think of housing, for most people, you would think like, "Yep, I should buy a house," but that may not align with your values. For some people, their values may be, "I want to travel the world. I want to have flexibility." So buying a house may not align for you, and you'll have that aha moment of, "Maybe I'm not. Maybe that American dream that everyone is, that I've been taught." In my money story doesn't align for me, and that's okay. And again, it's getting back to that authenticity. So, yes, I want you to look at all areas of life, even the vehicle you drive, those fixed expenses, those variable expenses. And really, when you think of your well being, leaning into those variable expenses that really align with your values really increases your well being. So, if we know that, um, you know, coffee is one of your variable expenses and it brings you joy, but you get to have that coffee with friends, that's going to increase your well-being. So we want to go deeper on that one. So yeah, I want you, but then at the same time, if we know going to the bar every week is not really bringing you joy or one of your values, we can cut that out and put in something else. So I do want you to go line by line as much as you can within your spending and say, does this align with my values? And then the money that where you're able to pull back on some areas that don't align, we can put that towards the things that do. And it has been such a game changer for me personally, because I'm really able to lean into. I'm big on experiences with my family. I'm really big on beautiful things, supporting charitable organizations and my spirituality, and being able to really lean into those things have increased my joy with money. And we want that same thing to happen to the folks that take our money roots classes.